And then we heard the smashing of windows, and the cars were honking going down the street. People were crying and screaming, and it became very chaotic at that point.
This is Blue Hill Avenue as we walk down and observe the police officers with their riot sticks, many with guns.
I was a fairly young mayor. I was only 38. I'd only been in office less than 100 days. I wasn't timid by nature. I had been Secretary of State of Massachusetts, but this is nothing that I had ever dealt with, nor had anyone else.
Among the many potential hotspots that loomed over the city was a James Brown concert scheduled for the next night at Boston Garden. Harvard Law student Tom Atkins, Boston's only black city councilman, became the liaison between Roxbury and the mayor's office.
I received a call from Jimmy Bird, who was a DJ at WIOD. He called me at City Hall to say that there was a problem, and that the problem was that a concert scheduled by James Brown for Boston Garden was about to be canceled by the city.
His concert, we thought, might bring as many as 15 or 20,000 black people from the community, particularly young people, into the city. It just had too much emotion in it not to decide whether that would be a problem.
There was rioting in Roxbury. The city fathers and the business people were afraid that the kind of audience that James Brown was likely to attract would come downtown, and that would endanger jewelry store windows and downtown stores down around the garden. Now, they didn't appear to be worrying all that much about the rioting as long as it was happening in Roxbury, Blue Hill Ave. They just sort of cordoned off the riot area and let it happen. But people got worried when it looked like it was going to spill over and not be contained. And so they wanted James to cancel the concert.
Atkins kept interjecting himself. There were 1,000 other issues besides this concert.
He was absolutely adamant that there was no way this concert could go forward because there was no way the police could guarantee peace and order if it did go forward. Then I said, Kevin, you are doing exactly the wrong thing. If the word gets out in the black community that the city would not let James Brown come to town and perform in the wake of King's assassination, I said, all hell will break loose.
I couldn't tell, nor could Atkins, whether he was right or wrong. But there was something in his argument that at least convinced me as one that we should go on with the concert.
Washington, Chicago, Detroit, Boston, New York, these are just a few of the cities in which the Negro anguish over Dr. King's murder, presumably by a white man, expressed itself in violent destruction.
As dawn broke on April 5th, America's cities were assessing the damage and bracing for a weekend of full-scale rioting.
We tend to forget about it, but this was a time of tremendous crisis, and everyone understood it. I mean, this iconic figure had been gunned down, and so everyone understood that this was beyond politics, and it was beyond personal ambition, and it was an attempt to keep the city whole.
So, Mr. Mayor, you got to get hip. We got to get hip to the jive, as we said. You got to know what's going on in your city.
He didn't know James Brown from Jamestown. But what he did understand was that James Brown had a hold on a segment of the community which at that moment was angered, disenfranchised.
And so Kevin now was thinking of how he could use James Brown to help solve his problem of trying to get through a weekend without having the city go up.
And we see this all the time, that right when the crisis hits the white community, things get serious. When crisis hits the black communities, it's just normal. Catastrophic circumstances in black America, turn away, rendered invisible. Catastrophic circumstances hit white America, now we got a serious problem, we got to do something about it. Let's talk about James Brown and all these other people who are willing to talk about healing.
The mayor decided that the best way to keep people at home and out of trouble was to televise the James Brown concert.
So he came up with this idea of trying to get somebody to agree to tape the program. Well, that was a big problem. It involved a whole lot of complications that none of us realized at the time.
The mayor's office was unable to reach James Brown and ask for his blessing. Knowing there was no time to waste, Mayor White convinced public station WGBH to go ahead and broadcast the concert live.
With the mobile unit, we were able to do television coverage of the symphony orchestras and the pops orchestras. So when they said a James Brown concert at the Garden, because that's how it's pronounced around here, they might as well have said, you are going to take ice samples on the North Pole. I mean, it wasn't understood or known by anyone of us how to mic it, how to shoot it, how to do anything about it.
So I want to first read the statement, and then myself and the commissioners and the superintendents will be open to any questions.
As soon as the announcement was made about the live carrying of this James Brown concert, word spread like wildfire.
Thank you, guys.
I went to Boston Garden with my tickets in hand, just to kind of get a vibe, you know, is this going to be cool? Is this okay? So I go up to the main entrance of Boston Garden. There's this big burly Irish cop. He said, hey kid, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I came to check on this show tonight. Is it still going to happen? And he said, oh yeah, it's going to happen, but if I were you, I wouldn't come. And I said, how come? And he said, I don't know. It could be a little edgy in there. Look, if you want to return your tickets, you can go over to the box office and they'll give you your money back.
With the concert now set to be televised and refunds offered, Brown stood to lose over $50,000 that night.
The next call I got was from Jimmy Bird, immediately followed by a call from James Brown, who was calling to complain that somebody had announced that this program was going to be carried on live on television, as a result of which people were lined up at the Garden getting refunds, and that nobody was coming to buy tickets, and that was a big problem. So that was the first contact I had with James Brown.
Background's a program of news and perspective. Tonight, Louis Lyons' guest is Kevin H. White, Mayor of Boston.
Well, now tonight you're going to have a great memorial service. You've turned the Brown concert into a memorial service. We're going to broadcast that live. And I assume you feel that that will have an effect in the community.
Well, I'm hoping it's one valve that'll let off some steam. And I think it's an appropriate place to have it because it's a peaceful gathering. And that's synonymous with everything that King did.
It was also clear that Brown was furious. So nobody wanted to meet him. Nobody wanted to talk to James. So once again, I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time. I got to talk to James Brown. My first meeting with him is going to be to deal with this man who's going to be livid about all the money he's losing. So I get in the limousine, I go to the airport, I meet James. Before I can even get him close to the limousine, he is all over me about this money. So we get to the car, we're on our way to Boston Garden, and I finally asked him, how much money are we talking about? What are we really talking about here? And he told me how much they anticipated this concert would bring in, at which point I wanted to jump out of the car.
It was just the straw that almost, made me either laugh or cry. In the middle of this, he's looking for $60,000. It isn't that I wouldn't have spent it. I was so unprepared.
Kevin said, that's it. All deals are off. I'm not going to pay. City's not going to pay that kind of money. And I said, well, Kevin, we don't really know how much it's going to be yet. But this is the magnitude that it could be. And he said, we're not going to pay anything near that. We don't have the money to do that with, Tom. Well, I didn't tell James that.